let these guys in. If I could find the admit all button. There it is. Admit all, here they come. Hey guys. Morning everyone. Just let everybody jump in and connect to the audio real quick.
I want to know if Amir's wearing a shirt and tie today, because he went from being shirtless to a shirt and tie the other day midstream.
I want to hope. Why have I got? Have you got that as well? What's going on there? There's a whiteboard going on.
Yeah, it was weird.
I want to just hope that everyone's dressed today. You know, we're like with clothes. Morning, everyone. You should be able to unmute and say hi. How are we all doing? It's a special test today.
I pushed the whiteboard by accident.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
That's
How are we all?
Good.
Cool. Okay, well, let's get straight into it. So we have got a spectacular one for you today. I've got Seth from Easy Algo, who is there. Say hi, Seth.
Hey, everybody.
You guys will probably know him because an awful lot of you are in now with him because we've been working together for some time. So I know that a lot of people will know Seth, which is great. For those of you who don't know who Seth is a developer for a set of indicators, which under the title of Easy Algo, absolutely like market-breaking stuff. And what we're going to do today is we just kind of figure that, you know, people have heard us discuss how these things work. We've spoken about how, you know, various indicators work and the way that these market structure ones get the data and, you know, trend X about how these oscillators work and so on and so forth and pivots. And I figured that today would be a really good day to actually bring it all together. And actually for Seth just to essentially trade with us or help us lead some potential trades. Now, after yesterday's absolute shitstorm where a lot of people got wiped out, it was absolutely brutal. I have to be honest with you, I got smashed yesterday. We have got the London meetup for banter tonight, and I should be on tap water. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those nights tonight. But yeah, Seth. I mean, so what do you reckon, man? Do you want to? Should we look through the charts? Should we briefly go over what they do again within say 10 minutes, and then
yeah, for sure.
Let's get to it. Okay, cool. Did you want to share screen real quick?
Yeah, let me share. Do I just share my entire screen and then whatever?
But just share the window if you like, the Chrome window or Brave or whatever you're using.
Because I wanted to show the scanner how we look for trades, and I can kind of take them through the whole process.
I meant to say, did you want to show off your really cool new toys that you're making today?
I would love to show it because it's we've just done some new work on it, and it's looking fantastic. So I want to take them through the whole process. So how do I do that?
Thing. So if you go to share down the bottom, can you see it says screen 1 or screen 2, whatever you're on? And
so entire screen.
Yeah, you should be able to see the whole screen. Just try it and see how it comes out. Let's have a look.
Okay.
So you should see.
Can you see the scan here?
Yeah. So
you can see the scan.
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
Okay, great. Well, let me just give a quick introduction first of how this all works. So basically, one of our indicators is designed around pivots, and pivots. I'll take you to the charts and just show you quickly exactly how the pivots work. So basically, these are pivots over here, and with this system, which is called TrendX, we've got 3 different kinds of pivots. We've got daily pivots, which
we lost him.
Daily time frames. It's just a pivot based on pivots, which is, and then we've got the monthly pivots, which work on 1 month's worth of data. So each one of these, I'll turn them on individually and just show you how they work. I'll start with the monthly because the monthly is the higher time frame. So we'll turn on the monthly pivot now, and we'll turn off the weekly pivots. And you can see over here, if you're on a monthly time frame, you go into a higher time frame. So for instance, an 8-hour, and you can see over here, we've got a monthly pivot, and I'm on SAND USDT at the moment. You can see the monthly time frame represents your highest time frame. So this is basically working out whether you're in a long-term bullish environment or a long-term bearish environment. If price is underneath the monthly pivot, it means that for the long term, we're in a bearish environment. So right now, sand is in a bearish environment on the monthly, and the monthly represents the long-term environment. Then we'll turn on the weekly, and the weekly represents, so guys, this is so great because it helps you figure out like the trend very easy. It helps you be able to figure out, is it bullish environment, bearish environment? So on the weekly now, you can see we are above the weekly pivot over here. Come on. Here we go. So you can see we're above the weekly over here, which means the weekly represents the midterm sentiment. So we're actually bullish on the midterm on sand, but on the long term, we're bearish. And majority of the tokens are actually still bearish. And then we've got the daily over here, the daily pivots, and the daily pivot is your short-term trend. So if you're a scalper, you're going to be using the daily and the weekly. If you're a swing trader, you're going to be using the monthly and the weekly. So it all depends. You know, with the system, you can customize it to your trading needs. You can see we're underneath the monthly. So for sand, we're long-term bearish. We're above the weekly, which means we're mid-term bullish, and we're below the daily here, or in the middle, which is showing that on the short term, it's still bearish. So we want to wait for it to get on top here. Let me go into a lower time frame. So I just wanted to show you these three. So just keep these three in mind when I show you the scanner now. We've got the blue, which is the short term. We got the yellow, which is the midterm. We got the red, which is the long term. So now if I take you into the scanner, we've created a scanner that automatically connects into all the tokens in the markets. And what they do, they will scan all the tokens and they will tell you which percentage of tokens are above or below the monthly, which percentage are above or below the weekly, and which percentage are above and below the daily. And then it gives you a sentiment score. So it's just showing you exactly what is happening in the markets. And you'll see over here, the monthly at the moment, 22% of the coins are above the monthly pivot. And then there's 78% are below. And over here, we got 74% above the weekly. So right here, if we just look at this in a glance, we can see the long term is basically bearish. The midterm is bullish. And we don't really use the daily so much in understanding the bias of the market. The daily is just our entry tool. So right now, because majority of the market is above the weekly, we can be looking for long trades. And then you can see it works out here. We've got the monthly, 22% bullish, 78 bearish, 74% bullish on the weekly, 26 bearish. And then it adds these details up to give you a sentiment score. So this is a nice tool. You can log in, you can see what is the market doing. And at the moment, you can see it's 40%, which is showing it's a little bit bearish. But because majority of the weekly are still holding, we're looking for longs on these coins. And we can search multiple exchanges. If you're on Binance, it will tap into Binance. If you're on BitGet, OKX, Mexi, it goes through multiple exchanges. I use Bybit, so we'll just stick to Bybit when I show you this. Now, if we want to find a coin, so I'll show you, if we want to find a coin, this is how we do it. What this system does is, let me take you back here quickly and show you on the charts. So if you can notice here, can you notice the monthly grid is super wide? And when there's a wide grid, it means that we're more in a ranging market on the monthly. If we're on a narrow grid, it means a trending market on the weekly. And over here, you can see narrow grids on the daily. So a wide grid means the market is going to be ranging, and a narrow grid means the market is going to be trending. So if we come into the scanner and we turn everything off, we can easily find tokens that we're looking for. So if we're looking for monthly tokens, coins that are above the monthly, that are narrow, immediately it's going to show us all of these coins here are above the monthly, or just above still, and they're narrow, because we want to target in on the narrow pivots, because narrow pivots show that there's going to be a trending movement that will happen. So you can see if we go into Frontier, look, it's above the monthly. So we know for this coin right now on front, it is on a higher term bullish environment. If we go into the weekly, you can see we're just above the weekly over here as well. So we can actually start looking, just because it's above the monthly means we're bullish. So for this coin, we're only going to be looking for longs with this specific strategy. And then if we go on here and we look on the weekly, we can see that it's just on the weekly pivot. So we can wait to see if it's going to hold this pivot, or if it breaks through, we're going to look for an entry at the bottom of the range. You see basically what these pivot grids do. They show us three things. They're going to show us the pivots, the top of the range, which are the two blue lines, and the bottom of the range, which are the two bottom lines. And then we've got the gray lines at the bottom, which are representing support areas, and the gray lines on top, which are going to be representing resistance points. So, and then we can go into the daily, which we can look for our entries on the daily. So with the system, we can find out exactly what coins we're looking for. If we're looking for swing trades, we're mostly looking on the monthly. If we're looking for scalping trades, we're going to be going with the weekly and the daily. So like, for instance, if we're looking for a trade today, so the great thing about this is when the market opens on Monday, you can log in here and you can immediately see what percentage of coins have opened above the weekly pivot. If coins open above the weekly pivot at the start of the new week, that means those tokens are more likely to be bullish for that week. On Monday this week, guys, over 100 tokens open narrow and above the weekly pivot, which is a strong sign to us that it was going to be like a big move was going to be happening. And then on Monday, we had that massive movement happen. ETH pumped, most of the coins pumped, but the algorithm here was showing us that before it was going to happen. I actually made a post in one of the groups saying that over 100 tokens had opened narrow, guys, prepare for a move, and look what happened. If I show you multiple coins, we got these massive pumps off the weekly pivots on all of these narrows. I mean, if I open most of them, you're going to see massive pump hits our resistance, which the blue line is our target number one area. And you'll see here, if I open most of them, it was actually amazing to see pumped off the weekly pivot. So as the weekly opened, we got the pump happen. The coin found a bit of support on the pivot, and we got these pumps pretty much on all of them. So the power of this is if the market opens and you get narrow pivots, the likelihood is 80%, 90% that there's going to be a big movement that will happen. See, pumped up to our take one profits areas. And these are big moves, guys, because we're on a weekly time frame. So they're very big moves that happened. You can see here, pumped off here. I mean, it's amazing. If I go through most of these tokens, probably 80% of them made massive movements off of the weekly. This hit target 1, target 2, target 3. So with this, it shows us now, if we're on a weekly time frame and prices come up into these higher resistance areas, it's showing us now that all the profits have been hit. So we're not going to be looking for longs in this coin anymore. We're going to wait for the next week, the market to reset. So it's quite nice because you can look at coins that haven't moved and you can see which are the ones that still have potential to go. See, this one hit take profit 1, take profit 2. Most of these coins have actually made big movements already. You know, this week was different from most weeks because it's not often we're going to get 100 coins that are going to be narrow at the same time. So what's great about this game?
I just want to reiterate one thing, guys. If you open this thing up on a Monday morning when the thing just prints the new week and it's narrow, you guys will be able to front run the move and catch the entire move because the indicator will have told you how narrow these pivots are together. So just to really reiterate what Seth has just said, most indicators are lagging. If you do this correctly, it's actually a leading indicator. You can tell 80-90% of which coins are going to pump before they even have the pump themselves. So just want to reiterate that.
Yeah. The great thing about it is this is a leading indicator. So, you get lots of different indicators out there, and you get some indicators that are lagging and you get some that are leading. This is an indicator that will let you know what's going to happen before it happens. That's why I said if you get a narrow pivot like this, and I mean, look at the difference here. You can see in last week's pivot, it was quite wide, and this week it's so narrow, it looks like only one line. If that happens, it's showing you that there's going to be a squeeze that's going to happen. There's going to be a big movement that's going to happen. And it's an 80-90% chance that this coin is going to make a big move. And like if I show you all of them, all the narrow ones made big moves. So when we see narrow pivots, it's letting us know we want to pay close attention to this coin because there's a very high probability that there's going to be a big movement happening. And if you want to know what direction to trade in, we look at the monthly. So you can see if our price is above the monthly pivot, and then on the weekly pivot we get a narrow, we know we're only looking for longs because we're using the monthly as our highest overarching time frame bias, and then we can use our weekly as our next, and then our daily as our next. So it all depends. Like for instance, if price is above the weekly, okay, we wouldn't look for longs in this coin because it's already hit up. When price comes above our resistance areas and they come into this region, we're not looking for longs anymore. We're going to look either for shorts on this asset, or we're going to look for another coin that hasn't made such a big move. This week, most of the coins did make big moves, which was, a bit out of the ordinary. It's not often that happens. Usually you'll get one or two that kind of lag behind. But I've looked through all of these already, and I haven't found any that didn't make a move. So it's a lot of times you will have time, and some of them don't make massive moves. Like this one here, look, it made a move, and now it's come back, and yesterday there was a bit of a dump, so a lot of coins are still respecting the weekly pivot, which is showing those would be the coins to look for longs. You can see over here, we lost the daily pivot yesterday. A majority of the coins did. We lost the daily pivot here, and we had a downtrend, lost the daily pivot here, downtrend. And now we're at this position here. So now what I would look for, if I was looking for a trade today, I'm going to go through here, and it all depends on your trading style. This is what's so great about this system. If you want to means that price is underneath the weekly, and you'll see here, you can see prices underneath the weekly. So if you're looking for shorts, we're going to look for narrow pivots that are underneath the weekly, and these become our short trades. Here we go. You can see on ASTR, we're breaking below the weekly pivot right now, which means this is a potential short. So then we go into the daily, and we've already missed the move. So if we were looking maybe like an hour or two ago, we would have caught this move. We would have come onto the weekly. We see prices breaking below that. That confirms us. Then we come onto the daily, and then we're looking for entries either at the break of the pivot. So we would have caught this entry over here, or we're looking for entries in this region that's closer to the top of the range, like over here. This would have been a good short position here, provided that price was underneath the weekly. We can go into the monthly, and you can see. So with ASTR, we can see it's underneath the monthly pivot, which is immediately letting us know that the trend, the long-term trend, is bearish. If we can determine that the long-term trend is bearish, then we go into the weekly, and then we're looking for our short entries when price is at the top of the range. So we would have actually taken a short over here when price just broke below. You see these two blue lines here. These two blue lines are very important areas to become aware of. They represent, because we're on the weekly pivot grid now, they represent the previous week's high and the previous week's low. So if we're getting price breaking either above or below a previous week, those are going to be prime locations to look for entries. And then we just want to make sure that it coincides with what's happening on the monthly. Because price is underneath the monthly, it means we're looking for shorts. Then when we come onto the weekly, it means we're looking for shorts either at this break below this previous week high or the break below the pivots. And then we can come onto the daily if we want to get more precise entry points. So you can see this would have been our entry point over here when price is at the top of the daily range, because the way this works is the daily, we trade the daily in alignment with whatever happening on the weekly and the monthly. If we can see the monthly and the weekly are bearish, then there's only really two entry locations we're looking for on the daily pivot. We're either going to look for an entry when price is at the top of the daily range, which gives us the best risk to reward, because we're going to catch the whole move down to the bottom of the range and potentially into the support 2, support 3 regions. So we either enter at the top of the daily range, or we enter when price breaks below the pivot. This would be entry number 1. This would be entry number 2 over here. And you can see the same thing happened today. Price didn't even get up into the high daily ranges, which is showing the weakness of this asset. Price came up, it actually tapped into a supply zone over here because we got these break-in structures. And then it broke below the pivot. So our best move would have been either to catch the short here when it taps into the supply. You want to add a little bit of price action into this as well in a few minutes, how this works. But what's great is we can target, if we want narrow, if we want wide pivots, we can actually target the wide pivots. The wide pivots let us know there's going to be more of a range. Can you see we've got more of a ranging asset on the wide pivots? So if you want to range trade, you can look for wide pivots. If you want to looking for trend trading, we look for narrow pivots. So this is a lovely tool because immediately at a click of a button, you can determine, is the asset ranging? trending? Is the asset bearish or bullish? And very fast you can figure that out, because one of the main challenges I had as a trader was learning how to determine the trend. Is it an uptrend? Is it a downtrend? Is it bearish? Is it bullish? This is questions that I couldn't figure out for a while. It really found difficult. And then when I discovered this ancient form of trading, which is pivot trading. I mean, guys, pivot trading has been around. It's one of the most ancient and first forms of trading. Traders started trading with pivots before there was even digital technology for traders. They were drawing these out. It's over 100 years old. It originates back to the floor traders, the guys who traded on the stock floors, the pit traders. They used pivots. So it's one of the longest forms of technical analysis that have been around. And what's great is now with our modern technology, we can combine it and create a cool little app that kind of breaks it down. I mean, if those traders back then saw what we were able to do with it now, I think they'd be pretty blown away.
It would break. It would break the entire financial world with those brains back then.
I mean, imagine you were drawing this by hand, and then someone brought you an app like this.
Quick question: if you're a range trader, okay, and you want to catch a wide set of bands, do you go and look for support 1 up to resistance 1 up to down to support? Is that how you do it, SR, or would you trade it differently? So that there will be range traders here. I mean, I'm a range trader. I don't like breakouts because I can never take profit correctly, but I love an upper and a lower range. So how would I trade a range with these lines?
No, we're looking, so on the pivot grid, you can see we've got the low of the range that's formed here, the bottom blue lines, and the top of the range. So we're going to be looking for our longs when price gets to the bottom of the range on this pivot grid, and we're going to be looking for shorts when price gets to the top of the range on this pivot grid. So we're just basically using the framework we've been provided here. If it's range trading, it's usually going to stay in here. You can see it's kind of staying within these grids here. I mean, this current week, we had a wide grid over here, and you can see price hit the top of the range, rejected. First of all, it rejected the bottom of the range. We would have taken our long here, bottom of the range, hit the top of the range, and we would have taken our short here. And we can use other confirmations as well, like break top of structures. We can use the TDIX, in the Easy Algo group, we've got a lot of companion indicators to use to help with confirmations. We can use TDIX, we can use the ATRX. Those are great tools to just help to confirm these. Or if you know a bit of price action, then you can target the top of the previous swing highs, or you can just wait for rejection below. You can see over here, it kind of got into these blue lines, and then as it broke below them, you would take your short then and target the next bottom of the range.
You know what I'm seeing. You know what I'm seeing, Seth, with that particular chart you just had up. If you target the closest blue line, like resistance 1, for example, the previous day high, and then you bring it down to the bottom pivot line, not even as far as there is a much more high, it's still a part of the range that you're going to capture. So just going from blue to the bottom yellow seems like a much safer way to play it, but you might miss a lot of the move. But it looks like it comes in a lot more.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it depends on your style of trading. If you're just looking for like a 2 or 3%, that could be great. Otherwise, if you're willing to hold it all the way from the top of the range to the bottom of the range, you see, this is on a weekly. We could go into a daily, and then we could also use the daily. I mean, you can see it. You see, the thing with this is if it's ranging, you see on the weekly we're ranging here, but then on the daily we're also going to get narrow pivots on the daily within a weekly range.
Yeah.
So this would have been, this area over here would have been your area of shorting. So say over here, we're looking where we're going to short in this area, and that area probably would have been up here. You see, so even though it's hitting a high, maybe it's finding resistance at the top of the weekly range, we can come onto the daily and get a more precise entry, which would be here at this area here. This area here would have been the top of this weekly range over here.
Perfect.
And then see, so we can get it more precise. And we can see here, it's a narrow grid on the daily, which is showing the daily is actually going to be trending, which is going to be, you're going to be catching this movement. So it's at the top of a weekly range, but then it's trending downward on the daily. So it's, once you understand how each one of them works together, you can kind of zoom in and really get precise entry points. So, I mean, this would have been our ideal entry point over here at the top of the daily ranges over here. If we're wanting to catch this reversal, but we would have first waited for confirmation. You can see we've got some reversal candles here. We would wait for price to break below these previous week high points. And then when we come onto the daily, then we can start using the daily, either entering under the grid or the break of these previous day lows. And you can see this day over here, price opened under the grid and it just kind of dropped. Here, we could have entered at the break of the daily pivots. So it all depends, I mean, you could have just traded these moves, like as scalpers, the way I teach in the group, can just trade from either the break of, and you in for the day, wait for the next day, enter at the bottom of the range, exits at resistance, I mean, support 1, support 2, so it all depends on your trading style. If you want to scalp, you can just enter on the daily. If you want to do more bigger mini swings, you can enter on the weekly. And if you want to do look on the monthly here, you can see price is staying below the monthly over here. It just does not want to break above this area. And it looks like there could be a potential drop coming. So
there's a horizontal line where those wicks are further down. And also that's where your blue line is as well, isn't it? So
Yes, exactly. So it could be going down to the bottom of the range. So we can always confirm with our monthly and see, look, does this asset look like it's going down? It wasn't able to break the pivot, which is showing there's a lot of rejection happening at this level. So then we can come onto the weekly and we can anticipate that. See, now on the weekly, if price breaks below this previous week low, that would be a place we'd look for an entry if it's not holding. And then we could come onto the daily and get more precise locations, entries as well. So it's such a great tool to just kind of orientate yourself in what the asset is doing. I mean, you don't have to look too hard to figure out. It's just quick. I mean, anyone can look here and see it's underneath the monthly grid. This means it's bearish. Go to the weekly, underneath the weekly, bearish. So now on the daily, we don't even need to look at the monthly or the weekly anymore. We're just looking for bearish entries, either at the top of the range or the break of the pivot. Made super simple.
Question, where do the guys get this thing? Well, how do the guys get this thing?
The scanner particularly.
Yeah.
Well, if they join or if they're in the group, they can just contact me directly. We're busy. You see, this is still a very new creation, so we're busy creating a authorization layer now for everyone to just get direct access once they sign up with WAP. But at the moment, that should only be ready in the next couple of days. So they would just have to contact me, and I would give them access to the app right now.
Is this everybody, or just monthly payers, or annual payers, or lifetime? What's the
for now it would only be for the annual payers.
Okay.
But as soon as our new system is ready, which should be in the next few days, then everyone's going to have access to it.
Amazing.
My goal
is
really,
really good.
Yeah, because at the moment we just can't manage the monthly subscriptions with the app, and that's why we needed to build a system to do that, which is actually built. We're just waiting for approval on the Mac store and the Play Store, which should be done very soon. But I want to give this to everyone because it's an invaluable tool.
That's amazing. Right, so guys, in chat, anyone, once the payment layers update, anybody who pays for EasyAlgo will be able to get access to it. I've put the link in chat. Sounds like in the next week or so, this will be available for everybody.
Yeah,
so,
next
Seth,
few days.
Do you want to talk about the other thing that you showed me this week, or do you want to keep that under your hat for now?
I'll keep that. Let me keep that under wrap for now, because I'm still tasting a little bit more, but it's another little secret weapon.
How's that for a little carrot for everyone? There is something special coming, guys. So what should we do next, Seth? Should we try? I mean, look, I was looking at Injective before you jumped on with Matt before.
Let's have a look.
I'm just really keen on Injective because Injective to me looks like it's in an unbelievably perfect spot, but I'd be keen to see if you could show us what it looks like on EasyAlgo, and you might turn around and say it's a dreadful trade. So,
Yeah, we looked at it as if it was it had broken a trend and was retesting a trend, So it'd be interesting to see, what you think. Yeah. Look at that, coming back to the daily pivot, eh?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Isn't it?
If I'm looking at it here, it's above. If I'm analyzing just with the way we operate with the pivot system, you can see it's above the weekly pivot over here, which showing it's still in a bullish sentiment. It's still bullish sentiment. Right. So what we would do in this scenario, let me just mark this out nicely so you can see. If it's above the weekly, This is the weekly pivot here. If it's above a weekly pivot, we know that it's bullish. That's how easy it is. We know that our bias is bullish until it breaks below here. We have a bullish bias.
Okay, I'll tell you what I was looking at. I was looking on the 1, the 3, the 4, and the 8 hour, and all the other indicators that I was looking up against were all showing that the RSIs were tailoring off at the bottom, and it looked like it was getting ready for a bounce. And there's also a perfect diagonal which it can bounce off any time now. So that's why I was so interested. It looked to me on the indicators that I like to use, as well as your one, obviously, that it was ready to bounce, and there was a long coming. So
yes. This is the exact location we would take a long right now. If you're going to long this is the location. This is our strategy. So if it's above the weekly, it's bullish. And then our best bullish entries are at the bottom of the daily range. You can see it's right at the bottom of the daily range right now. And
I've got my phone in my hand.
We've got the previous. Yeah, this is it. This is the long. And look, we're on a narrow daily. So it's showing us that this could be a trending asset. So because we've got a narrow daily over here, the chances of this moving all the way up, let me show you, moving all the way up to the top of the range is very high in this scenario. I'll just mark this out.
I've just got along, by the way.
This is our textbook. This is our textbook pivot trade happening right here, hitting the low of the range, finding it's also our previous day low. Can you see the swing low? So this is a prime location to look for an entry right here, guys. Like this is amazing. I wish I had my. I'm going to enter quickly a trade as well.
Have you done so? So this is
the TDIX, Seth, is also showing shark fins and green dots and all sorts of whistles going off.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah,
this
so
is
more
the power.
happening.
This is the power of the Sniper Club / Easy Algo. We come with research,
I'm just going to take a long as well.
and we long this shit out of the market. So I've gone longer than a donkey schlong to try and make up that fucking horrendous day yesterday, guys. Just want to say that. That's really funny. And then my sort of I've put a stop loss in already, Seth. Now I did this based on a diagonal based on the last few weeks, and I've actually got my stop at around the $24 mark. So
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's a nice. I'm gonna do the same. Okay, I'm in, guys. I'm in and I'm up. I'm up $3.
DJs, come on, DJs. This is not the purpose. This is not the purpose of today, guys. We're not making you throw more money at this thing. If you do throw money, please use a fucking stop loss, please. I beg you after yesterday. I beg you. But brilliant. Okay, so that's good. So that's a good start, isn't it? So I mean, what else
lined up so perfect.
So what can you tell us about injective? So can we quickly, now that we're in or we're getting in, can we just counter analyze this based on what you see? Is that all right?
Yeah. So all I looked at, this is what's so great about using the pivot systems is you don't actually have to look at other time frames, because the weekly pivot is basically your higher time frame without even having to look at a higher time frame. So you can be on one time frame, either your entry time frame. I like to enter on the 15 or the 5 minute. Just the fact that price is above the weekly is showing we're still in a bullish environment. So then, because it's at the low of the daily range, but it's above the weekly pivot, and if you also look here, it's very close to the pivot. It's only like a 3 or 4%. So our best trades are going to be when price is close to the pivot, because you'll see the further away price gets from the pivot, the greater the chance it's going to reverse back to the pivot. Can you see?
Yeah.
So our best trades are always going to be when price is close to the pivots, and then the higher it gets up, the greater the chance it's going to break. You'll see as we got these break-in structures here, now we would only be looking for shorts, and this is where our first short would actually start taking place over here, because it breaks the structural point over here from when we were going long. So from this point, it comes all the way down, and now the fact that it's so close to the pivot, and it's at the bottom of the daily range, but still holding above the weekly pivot, this is our prime location to look for a long entry. And our targets would be, it depends if you're going to be scalping, but target 1 could be the actual pivots over here. Target 2 would be the top of the range.
Right.
So these would be the 2 places. And guys, what I would suggest as well, if price moves up, like say it moves up, say you just entered and it moves up 2 or 3%, move your stop loss to break even, just to secure the trade and reduce risk. It's really a great little trick we've been using a lot, is just wait 1 or 2%, bring stop loss to break even, and then it's a free trade, guys. You can walk away
do
stress
get
free.
stopped out a lot doing it this way. However, on the ones that don't stop you out, that's where you make the money back. But the idea is, if you can not make a loss across 10 trades and only make, say, 2%, that will still rack up to 10 or 20% over time. And eventually one of them will run away and you won't hit the stop loss. And that'll be the one that gives you 40%. And then you start moving your stop up. So I completely agree with what you just said. That is how I like to trade. I get stopped out all of the time because most people, they leave their stop losses below entry, and they come back, they run again, they come back. And then after 3 days, they've been stopped out at a loss. Whereas I've been stopped out 3 times for 1% or whatever it may be. And on a dollar value, I'm doing slightly better. So I completely agree with what you just said.
I would also just, like, you're going to incur losses. Losses are going to happen. They're part of trading. 40% of your trades will probably end up in losses. But if you can make sure the losses are small and the wins are big, then at the end of the month, you're going to have an overall winning percentage over your trades. And that's what we're looking for. We can't win every trade perfectly, but just with proper risk management, we can just manage the trade so that at the end of the month, we are walking away with a higher percentage. I mean, you can still walk away with a winning month with having a 40% losing rate or even a 50% losing rate.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So this was a great coin. Like I don't know, it just worked out so perfectly that it was in the perfect position. Like, I'm so grateful for this.
That's all right. Listen, we can do this every single week. If we can come up with one trade a week that wins, I think everyone will be very grateful, including you and me.
Yeah. I'm keen to do it. I'm very keen. We can always log on a few minutes early, look at a few trades, and if we find some good ones, we bring everyone and we show them.
It was just Chaos and I setting up our own old school manual scanners for you for Injective.
Well done, guys.
The manual scanners, using these two things, which don't always work very well, but out of
analog scanning.
Yeah.
But it just shows you that it comes to the same conclusion. It doesn't matter what trading style you use. You can always find confluences and they always end up in the same place, It's what I love about technical analysis.
And there is one other thing to say. If this now blows through the stop loss, guys, and you get stopped out, you don't go, oh, this is like easy algo doesn't work, or you go, your eyes don't work. All it's very simple.
Overlaying your guys' strategy with this strategy.
Well, all it really is the price is coming down again. If it comes down for, I can't hear you. Hang on. Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you hear me, Seth?
Yeah, I can hear
you.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I lost you. I can see you talking. All I was going to say is if this blows through the stop loss, just really for anybody that's in the trade, get into the mindset of not going, oh, this is crap, this doesn't work. It's very simple. We're not in control of the market. We're not. No matter how good we think we are. And if the price is coming down further, let's say it comes down to the yellow pivot there, and we get a better entry, then when it comes back to the target, you make more money. So understand that this can now blow out in 2 seconds and we can all get stopped out, and that's completely fine. So I always want to push out there that this is not us controlling this. This is the market makers. They might have seen 100 trades just took place and gone, right, we'll have that liquidity.
Exactly.
Which is very common, but you must always get into the mindset of understanding that if this doesn't hold and the next entry point is the bottom of that weekly pivot, and then you get an extra 3 or 4% on your trade, on a 5x, that's a 15% profit, so if you're 1% loss. So just always wanted just to repeat that. It's so important that you guys realize that if you get stopped out, that's fine.
Just part of it. There's no golden bullet. There's no indicator that's the holy grail. It's just showing us key levels. We can only trade on key levels, and they're either going to work and they're not going to work, and we just react accordingly to that. So just understanding that losses are, I always tell people in the group, losses are the normal. They're pretty normal.
They are. And you know what? If you can accept a loss and you can stomach it because you set good risk management in, and Matt will tell you all about this, then you know what? It becomes fine. I don't, like yesterday, I did bat an eyelid. I got screwed yesterday. However, most days, if I lose 5%, you know what? That's no drama. I accept it. I'll make it back next week. You know what I mean? It's completely cool. Let's just be cool with losing.
Yeah, that's what we're here for as well, is like using some tools available to us to look at the clues that the market is giving us as to which direction it may move in, right? And that's what Seth's developed here, is a tool that gives us, highlights some clues the market is giving us. But we can't control anything at the end of the day. So you got to find what tools work well and be consistent with it and cop the losses on the chin if they happen.
Your oscillator there looks nice. You've got a shark fin.
Yeah.
I know that most people know what shark fins are, guys, but Seth is good. Actually, it's only just a shark fin, isn't it? Because you've got the right. Seth, do you want to just quickly show everyone what they're looking at here?
So the shark fin. So you can see we've got over here. We've got 2 dots here. So basically, what this oscillator is, it's an RSI, Bollinger Band, and an EMA all in one, kind of working together. And this white line is actually an RSI, and this blue line is the Bollinger Band. So whenever price gets out the Bollinger Band and we get into these oversold regions, there's high probability that reversals can occur, especially when it comes back into the band. So when the RSI breaks out of the band, and you can see it coming band, and you can see this has got a bit more of like a shark fin look to it. So we're looking for these kind of jagged movements back into the band, and you can see it over here. And especially when it's happening in these lower regions, which is the oversold regions, these are where we get these reversals that occur. So it's also an extra confidence we can use that we're getting a shark fin reversal on the TDIX at a key level, because these are very, very strong signals. They work very well, but the best time to look for them is at key levels. You can't just, see a shark fin and enter. You've got to wait for it to get to a key level. And then if you get a shark fin, it just acts as like a companion tool, to give you extra confirmation, to make you feel more confident about your entry, that this is going to be a good entry. And a shark fin on a 15-minute, which is what we're on here, is a very, very good confluence. So I'm feeling very confident about this trade at the moment, because we've got the shark fin, and we've got it happening at a key level. It's above the weekly pivots. Sometimes trading is just about adding all the confidences together. And if you get enough confidences in your favor.
It's a gut feeling as well, isn't it? Sometimes it just is a gut feeling, hey?
Yes. Also, the more times you've done this, the more your intuition can recognize patterns. It can be like, I've seen this happen before. Shark fin at key level, above the weekly pivot, and that increases your confidence about the trade. I mean, things could change drastically as well, but this is looking good. I mean, if we look at the shark fin, we got the shark fin occur, and we've got quite a lot of strength in this movement. It went straight up. Sometimes it will kind of lag, but this is just kind of shooting up. So I'm feeling very confident about this.
We just got our 15-minute candle print, which is why that's just extended, guys, as well. So in 14
and
minutes,
we got a nice engulfing. We got an engulfing candle on the 15-minute, which is another confirmation.
Now this is listen. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's looking bullish.
Yeah, if we get stops, no worries. Honestly, no problem. Yeah, no problem. If we get stopped, we will get a better entry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, if you take this 10 times in a row and 4 of them are right, you lose a 1% stop loss each time, you lose 4%. You get 2 or 3 of them correct, you make 20, 30%. It's easily 6 to 7x on what you lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could lose it more times than win, but you'll walk away with bigger winning percentage than losing percentage, and you still win at the end of the day. It's amazing how that actually works.
Yeah. So here's a quick question. So we've got 15 minutes left, right? I've seen a few questions in chat. They're just the normal, when do you move stop loss? We'll cover that in a second. Do you want to quickly have a look at the scanner again and see, just take us through one more time of your thought process, scanner to chart? What looks good? Look at the chart. I'm going to take that. We don't have to take it. We don't have to take any more trades. We've got a trade. But it'd just be good to get the full picture.
Okay, so let's say we're looking for longs at the moment. Yeah, for sure. So let's just say we want to look for a scalp trade today. Then what we do is we come in here. If we want to do just like small scalps, maybe like 2, 3, 4% scalps, then we're just looking on the weekly, and we're going to look for assets that are above the weekly pivot on a narrow pivot, because these are going to be the most likely. If it's above the weekly pivot and it's narrow, we know that these are going to be most likely good coins to trade. So now what we want to do is we want to find coins that are either holding above the previous week high, because you can see this is broken below the previous week high, which is showing that it's coming down. So now I'll just scan through a bunch of them, see which ones are holding. See, this one could be holding on this level. If it's holding a level, so we want to see, is it holding a previous week high? Is it holding a resistance? If it is, we're coming to a daily and we're looking for an entry. Okay, this has already made its move. You can see as the market opened, it already shot to take profit 1, almost to take profit 2. So then we look for another one because we want to find coins that actually haven't made the move yet. So here we are on the weekly. No, that's not a good one. There was a good one that I saw earlier, Sand. Let's see if it's made its move. So look, if we look at Sand, it came all the way down. It found rejection here on the pivot. So we come onto the daily. And okay, look, so Sand here, right? So we can see Sand basically yesterday it made a big drop because we had that dump, and it's actually recovered very well. So when Sand gets on top of this daily pivot can be our entry point. So let me quickly go into the chart and actually just open it here.
Are you talking about a short or a long? Because that's my question.
I'm talking about a long. So the way we do this, that is, if price is above the weekly, you see the weekly pivot here. If price is above it, we're only looking for longs. This is how easy this is to figure out. So only long if price is above weekly pivot. That's how quick. That's how easy it is to determine whether you're going to look for a long or not. If price is above weekly pivot, only looking for longs. And then our long locations are either going to be at the bottom of the range, but you can see this asset is holding quite nicely. Look at this point. So we will look for a long entry. If price gets on top of this grid, this would be our long entry up to the top of the range. We would look to enter our long. We'd keep our stop loss just below the pivot. We'd enter our long on top of the pivot. And we would also look at the candle that breaks. If we have a nice big candle that breaks on top of the pivot, that will be a good confirmation for us. Otherwise, we'll wait for price to get on top of the grid here and find maybe a bit of support. So another confirmation is we're going to see it maybe find a bit of support here, then it's going to shoot up. Or if it's going to break up, I mean, if we look at this candle, this is showing us, this big engulfing candle, this is showing us that there's some momentum in this asset right now. So if price got on top of this pivot, I would say it would be a very good time to enter along. You can have your stop loss just below the pivot. So we won't even have a 1% stop loss, and our reward up to the top of the range is 5%. So I think this would be a great trade to take as well. Just wait for price to get on top of the daily pivot, and we can look for our long entry.
Okay. I do wonder one thing. This is a question for when you're done with this. If I'm one of these idiots that always longs the top and shorts the bottom because I happen to pick the reversal point, is there a way that the chart show that? And we can cover that afterwards. I just wanted to ask you, and then we'll come back to that.
Yes,
come back to that.
Yes, it is. And this is why we use the weekly. So our weekly pivot is going to be our barometer. If it's close to the weekly, it's a greater chance of looking for longs. If it gets far away, so we always look at this barometer. If price is far away from the weekly pivot, the chance of reversal is much higher. So we don't want to look for any longs in this region. So what we'll do is, say I come to the weekly here, you can see as soon as price comes into these regions above the previous week high, we don't really want to look for longs, especially here. I'll show you. I mean, there's a few price action things we can use. So if I just go to the left of my chart, and you can see the previous swing high point was here. Can you see? So if it's approaching a previous major swing high point, we don't really want to look for longs in that region. It's better to wait for price to come all the way back down to the weekly pivot, because our weekly pivot is going to be our best place. The closer it is to the weekly pivot, the greater our chance of getting into good long positions. The further away it gets, the greater the chance it's going to reverse back, because the pivots are actually become these magnetic zones that price likes to come back to. You'll see whenever price extends, especially these narrow pivots, if price extends far away from them, it likes to come back to them and then extend away from them again. So entering closer to the pivot is definitely a big confidence we can use to look for those longs.
Perfect.
Does that answer?
Definitely.
Amazing.
Definitely. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? It's a lot to take in, even though it's not a lot. You know what the problem is? Everybody here is used to indicator trading, where we just rely on, let's say, order blocks or fib tools or whatever the case may be. And people have asked in chat about the OBs and about fibs, and I can see people have asked about reversal points, and it's just a case of going, fuck all that. I'm just going to use this, and I'm just going to try trading like this. And I suppose the answer is, if any of you cannot get trading right, and you keep losing 9 out of 10 trades, and you need an epiphany, this could be it. It could just as simply be, forget everything you've learned, forget me talking to you about market cipher B and all the other things. Just use these lines as reversal points or pivot points, and it might just work for you.
And Chaos, like my own personal experience when I started trading as well, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not having that barometer check of the overall market direction. And this having this weekly pivot point gives you guys that barometer as like, okay, well, we're above the weekly pivot. Okay, so straight away we're thinking bullish.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people just enter trades without really knowing what the general market barometer is like. So they might be looking for longs on a day when everything's below the weekly pivots and things like that. So I think as a starting point, that is insanely powerful for everyone here. Just that.
Yeah.
It makes it so easy to determine, am I looking long? Am I going short? Like in 2 seconds, you don't have to even think twice. This is what I loved so much about when I first discovered it, because that was the biggest challenge I had as a trader. Was I wasn't sure, is this a long trade? Is it a short trade? And this kind of eliminated that wondering, which gave me more confidence in your trades.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can hear somebody's playing pool or snooker behind you in the office. I can hear the snooker balls banging away there.
Sorry about the noise, guys.
No, that's all good. So here's a question. Is there anything else you want to cover, or should we just have the audience ask a few things? Is there anything else that you want to show us, or anything else that's a new feature, or the floor is yours?
I could show you a lot more stuff, but I think that's good for now. I don't want to overcomplicate things or give overload of information. The main thing is that's it's just it's a price action indicator, and it's just showing you key levels. And you can mark these all out manually if you want, but it just makes it very convenient that you can turn it on in 1 second, and all of a sudden you can see all the key levels at once, and you know how to trade according to those key levels. So it can take an amateur trader and immediately turn them into a master chartist within one click.
I've got an idea then. I've got an idea. Really quick one. Sheldon called Casper. All right. We all made, and I know you call Casper as well. And I know Dylan also. So here's the question. How does Casper look right now in the chart to you? And the reason I'm asking is I drew a trend line a couple of days ago. We are currently approaching to the downside that trend line it'll come in the next couple of hours. So if you now look at Casper, tell us what you see in Casper. Do you see a trade coming today, a long specifically?
Okay, let's look over here. So Casper at the moment, so Casper's still holding the weekly. Okay, let me look on the charts. Just want a quick check over there.
Yeah, sure.
I'm actually still in this trade.
Are you? See, all right, here's the next one. For those that aren't in the trade, it's coming in for a retest of the diagonal. Is it an opportunity for them to enter? That's probably a better question.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, it's still holding the weekly, which is a good sign. So we're only looking for longs. And then you can see here we've got the low of the daily range over here. Yeah. So if we're going to look for an entry, the 2 places we're going to look for this is if it's going to come back to a low point like over here, we're going to look for an entry. So this would be location number 1 that we look for entry. Otherwise, if we already missed that, because you can see we're already hitting this low area here.
Yeah.
So if we'd missed that already, then our next entry could be on top of the grid. If price gets back on top of the pivot grid, we can look there. These are, the thing that makes it simple, the only 2 locations we look for entries are number 1, bottom of the daily range, number 2, on the pivot. Every single time. If it's above the weekly, we're looking for longs only in 2 locations, bottom of the daily range or on the daily pivot. 2 places. And then we can obviously we can look to the left and we can see these swing points as areas where price could possibly reverse, you know. There we go.
Excellent. All right, well, there you go, guys. So you've had one trade this morning, and you've got potentially something to look for today. The two potential entry points to Casper. You know, if you didn't get in yesterday, then there's still a chance.
So you can, if you guys don't have the pivots, you can just mark out these locations over here on your chart. And if price breaks above these 3 pivot lines, which I've marked out in these locations, then that would be the region to look for an entry. I mean, it could even be taking a bounce from here. We can check on the TDI over here. We can see how it could even be taking a bounce. There's no shark fins on this, but look, we've got a leveling out. Can you see we've got a leveling out happening? So this could also bounce from this location right here. So we never know at this point where in this lower range it's going to bounce. It can often come down to the low of the range, but you can see these are the 2 locations. So you could always enter a position here. If it came lower, enter another small position, and you could double up on that trade. Or if you wanted to be super safe, just wait for it to get on top of the pivot. That would be a very strong confirmation, because then it's breaking these daily high points. So you see, these are the pivot is located on the high of the day. So if it gets above today's current high point, that would also be another confluence we could use.
Perfect. Well, there we go. I mean, look at the time. Where does the time go?
Yo, 1 hour just flew by.
Yeah, so there we go. So look, we've managed to get a trade out. I can see that I'm 6% up right now, which is always nice. I'm looking at on the 5-minute for injective. I can see it's still heading up, so we'll see what happens. You guys have got now a potential 2 different entry points on Casper for later on today if you're not already in via Sheldon, Dylan, Seth, and all of us already. So there is a trade going now, and there's a potential trade later on. So I hope this has been quite helpful. Seth, so I've put the link in the chat a few times to where these guys can get this. You do still offer a 3-day trial, correct?
Yes, yeah, there's a 3 free-day trial. If you just want to test out everything and see how it all runs, join the group, test it out, see how you feel with it, and yeah, you can make a decision from there.
All right. Well, look, I want to say this. I mean, that was an excellent session. I did put a message out before to see what people thought of it, and it got some thumbs up, which was good. Why don't we do this? Why don't we see how the week goes next week, and if we can try and tune in again next Friday. I'd love to do it as often as possible. You know, I'm conscious that we want to give the guys as much good content as we can. So I think this is priceless to be able to show the software and take a trade together. I mean, if these guys can look at this software now tomorrow and take another trade on their own and they win, then they've got something really spectacular out of it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Really good. Really good.
It simplifies for me. It just makes it easy seeing these key levels. I love the pivots so much. I'm such a pivot enthusiast.
Junkie. Excellent. Well, look, that's the hour. We've got Dylan coming on in a little while, so we're going to have to close up just now, guys. I hope that's all right. Seth, amazing. Always amazing.
Thanks so much. Thanks for organizing this. Really.
No, that's all right. I'll pop into your Discord later and just say thanks to you guys. Hopefully, there's a few of them that joined us as well from there.
Awesome.
And I'll speak to you later today. All right, I'm going to jump out the meeting, guys, and end the meeting for everyone. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you,
Thanks so much, everyone.
Well done, Seth.
Take it easy, everyone.
See you all later. If you're coming out tonight, see you in London. See you guys later. Cheers for now.
Bye.
Bye.